Morning, guys. It's Miss Smoot, or early, I guess, whenever you're watching this. Now we're going to listen to the story of the Sirens. I'm going to have the recording read it, and I'll kind of pause it as we go to kind of look at like what we're reading in the text. Make sure you have your text in front of you so that way you can reference it as we go. In the hard copy book, I'm on page 580. We've just finished Land of the Dead. Let's look at our timeline so that way we can see it. Boom. All right, so here we are in our timeline. We've already finished all of this stuff. We've already been to the underworld. Remember, we were on Circe Island for about a year and a half for fun times and other fun things. And Tiresias has just told us his prophecy as to where we need to go and what we need to do. Hold on one second, sorry. Sorry about that. To better accomplish and get home. And remember, there is a way for us to get home, all of us, including the crewmates, but they have to follow directions. We'll see how that goes later on. So now Odysseus is done. He's done talking to Tiresias. He says goodbye, and he's going to head back to Circe's island. And don't forget, he definitely promised his friend Elpenor that he was going to bury his body so that way he couldn't be taken over by the spirits, so that way they could, he could only be laid to rest. So he's got to do that. And then he's going to talk to his men, and they're going to push out on their journey. So ready? Here we go.
Odysseus returns.
Oh, wait. Way too fast. All right, so it started with Sirens, page 580. Odysseus returns.
Circe's island. The goddess reveals his course to him and gives advice on how to avoid the dangers he will face. The Sirens, who lure sailors to their destruction. The wandering rocks, sea rocks that destroy even birds in flight. The perils of the sea monster Scylla, and nearby the whirlpool Charybdis, and the cattle of the sun god, which Tiresias has warned Odysseus not to harm. As Circe spoke, Dawn mounted her golden throne, and on the first rays Circe left me, taking her way like a great goddess up the island. I made straight for the ship, roused up the men to get aboard, and cast off at the stern. They scrambled to their places by the rowlocks, and all in line to doors in the gray sea. But soon an offshore breeze blew to our liking, a canvas-bellying breeze, a lusty shipmate sent by the singing nymph with sun-bright hair. So we made fast the braces, and we rested, letting the wind and steersman work the ship.
So it did kind of a yada-yadas through it, but basically for the very first part, as Circe spoke, Dawn mounted her golden throne. He told Circe the prophecy that he was told by Tiresias. He's like, yeah, I was like kind of really cryptic. I was a little bit confused. But he said to not touch the cows and the sun's cows. Does the sun even have cows? And so she's like, okay, whoa. I'll give you a little bit more specifics based on what he said. So that's when she says, you're going to face Sirens, Scylla, Charybdis, and Helios's cattle. And then you'll get to get home. So she kind of gives him more details. So the big thing that she warns about the Sirens is that they lure the sailors to their destruction, by the wandering sea rocks that destroy even birds in flight. So basically, they're there to distract. So now they're head out, he and his men, they're ready to go. The 23 of them, because remember we had, well, I guess technically it's 22 because we lost Elpenor. So they've got this breeze, it's pushing them along. It's been sent to them to help them by Circe, her radio Circe. And here we go.
The crew being now silent before me, I addressed them, sore at heart. Dear friends, more than one man or two should know those things Circe foresaw for us and shared with me. So let me tell her forecast. Then we die with our eyes open if we are going to die, or know what death we baffle if we can. Sirens weaving a haunting song over the sea we are to shun, she said, and their green shore all sweet with clover. Yet she urged that I alone should listen to their song. Therefore, you are to tie me up tight as a splint erect along the mast, lashed to the mast. And if I shout and beg to be untied, take more turns of the rope to muffle me.
So he explained to his men, he's like, all right, men, I want for me to tell you what's going to happen. And then we will die with our eyes open. So even if we die, at least you'll know what was coming. I didn't hide anything from you, so that's what that means. But then he kind of stretches the truth a little bit. I'll go ahead and tell you guys what Circe said when she was talking about Scylla, Charybdis, and the Sirens and the cattle. She's like, hey, so the Sirens, they'll lead you to your death. Don't listen to them. It's their voice, and their voice will trick you and make you want to swim towards them, direct your boat towards them, and you'll crash and you'll die. Don't do that. close your ears, and like their singing is the most beautiful song you'll ever hear in your whole life, but don't do it. So of course, being Odysseus, he's like, oh no, I'm going to do it. Because we see at line 693, talking about the sirens, yet she urged that I alone should listen to their song. So he's like, so you guys, you can't listen. I alone have to listen. She says, I have to. No, she did not, Odysseus, you liar. You're just being selfish. You just want to hear this amazing song. So you're going to put your men and yourself in danger in order to hear this. So he's like, you guys are going to be fine. Tie me up. Make sure you guys can't hear. Tie me to the mast so that way I can't escape. And I'm going to holler and listen. And if I start shouting more, like gag me and tie me up tighter, don't let me go, because he doesn't want to die. But I have to listen. No, you don't. So he's like, if I shout in bed, being tied, put more ropes around me to muffle me. Don't let me go, but I have to listen.
I rather dwelt on this part of the forecast while our good ship made time, bound outward down the wind for the strange island of Sirens. Then, all at once, the wind fell, and a calm came over all the sea, as though some power lulled the swell. The crew were on their feet briskly, to furl the sail and stow it. Then, each in place, they poised the smooth oar blades and sent the white foam scudding by. I carved a massive cake of beeswax into bits and rolled them in my hands until they softened. No long task, for a burning heat came down from Helios, lord of high noon. Going forward, I carried wax along the line and laid it thick on their ears. They tied me up then, plumb amidships, back to the mast, lashed to the mast, and took themselves again to rowing. Soon as we came smartly within hailing distance, the two sirens, noting our fast ship off their point, made ready, and they sang.
So as they near the island, as they near the island of the Sirens, he's like, all right, they put up the mast so they can't get blown onto the island. Excuse me, sorry. And then he's like, all right, man. And so he takes a big chunk of beeswax and he starts ripping pieces off and like rolling it in his hands. Basically, he walks up to his men and he's like, all right, and there you go. So he like literally stuffs their ears full of beeswax, which would bother me a lot, but it's fine, I guess. And then they tie him up to the mast. The sirens see him, and now they're going to sing, and I'm not going to sing for us because no, I don't want to torture you guys like that. So they sing the song.
This way, oh, turn your bows, Achaea's glory, as all the world allows, moor and be merry. Sweet coupled airs we sing, no lonely seafarer holds clear of entering our green mirror. Pleased by each purling note, like honey twining from her throat and my throat, who lies a-pining? Sea rovers here take joy voyaging onward, as from our song of Troy, graybeard and rower boy goeth more learned. All feats on that great field in the long warfare, dark days the bright gods willed, wounds you bore there. Argus's old soldiery on Troy beach teeming. Charmed out of time, we see. No life on earth can be hid from our dreaming. The lovely voices in ardor appealing over the water made me crave to listen, and I tried to say, untie me, to the crew, jerking my brows, but they bent steady to the oars. Then Perimedes got to his feet, he and Eurylochus, and passed more line about to hold me still. So all rowed on until the sirens dropped under the sea rim and their singing dwindled away.
So also, sorry, I forgot to mention, but if you look at the top of page 581 and 580, you can see the picture of them, and there's Odysseus, who's tied to the ship, all his men are rowing, and here the sirens, they have like beautiful faces, but then their bodies are birds. And they've been depicted different ways. Sometimes they're shown as bird ladies, which that's a lot. Sometimes they're basically shown as mermaids. Sometimes they're just like beautiful ladies standing on rocks, like, you're like, ooh, we're over here, we're so beautiful. And so, you know, kind of up to your interpretation. I'm not gonna be like, what kind of person were they? Because I don't actually have a for sure answer. Also, it's a made up story, so. But yeah, so he calls for us and says, men, please untie me. I need to listen to this, so I need to get closer to them. And they don't listen. One, they probably can't hear him because they have beeswax in their ears, and they see him thrashing about, so they add some more rope. And they keep sailing and rowing, and they're rowing on purpose, so that way they can't get pushed into the island. It's harder, but it's more effective from keeping them from crashing. So they keep sailing and rowing until the sirens start, you know, dwindling away, and you can't hear them anymore. And honestly, they probably know that they're done with the sirens because Odysseus starts thrashing around like a madman because he's like, no, let me listen. I have to listen. So once it kind of calms down, they're like, okay, so he's definitely not hearing them anymore, so I think we're safe, which then they, I guess, pull all the gunk out of their ears and they keep going.
Faithful company rested on their oars now, peeling off the wax that I had laid thick on their ears. then set me free.
And that's the end of the siren story. So for our packet, there's nothing specific we have to write down, but we do need to make sure we include who was there, aside from Odysseus, the kind of conflict, and what was the result. So I talk about the fact that Odysseus told his men about the sirens, and he kind of lied to them. That's probably important because it doesn't show really great leadership to lie without a purpose. He just wanted to get to hear the siren song because they're so beautiful. There was no true purpose. There was no benefit to doing it that way. So that was a little, well, really a lot selfish of him. So I might note that myself. Then I talked about the fact that he and his men had to sail past the island of the Sirens. And so there's definitely conflict because internal conflict of we should get to listen to, but we can't because he said not to. So they all have their ears covered up with beeswax. And so Odysseus has to fight the urge to lead his men towards the Sirens. And then the end result is he doesn't get to hear the sirens, and they get kind of past the island, and they can continue on their journey because they successfully passed the sirens trap. So that's good. All right, guys, I'll see you for the next story.